The age of consent was as low as 7 years old in the state of Delaware up until 1871. Here's what
That's insane.
happened. In Delaware, the legal age of consent was set at 7 years old under colonial and early state law. The law remained in the books until 1871, when it was finally raised, good job everybody, to 10 years old. It wasn't until a
Is this supposed to be a joke? Because that's insane, man. That's gross.
major push from social reformers and activists during the progressive era, the late 1800s and early 1900s, that many states began raising the age of consent to 16 or older. That's when it happened. Why was it so low?
It's 16 where I'm from. Even today, it's still 16.
You're probably asking yourself, why was it that low? Early American laws were often inherited from British common law, which had similarly low age thresholds. These laws weren't built to protect.
The British. That makes sense because someone told me in my country, in the rural areas, they used to sell their daughters as young as 9 to rich men. So, yeah.
Children, but to regulate property rights, virtue, and control over women's sexuality, especially in the context of marriage, because early American culture was very heavily Christian-centric. This was in valuing of how the Old Testament did things. In many cases,
the Old Testament, they were that young in the Bible?
Marriage voided prosecution. So if a man was caught having promiscuous activities with an underage girl, he could often avoid punishment simply by marrying her. Why do I know these things? Why am I
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one.
bringing this up? We got to talk about this deeper and deeply, because Delaware wasn't the only place, it's just the part that I brought up the most. This is a very big issue, and it hasn't just started recently. It's not as if this came out of nowhere. You can go back and watch Elvis' Hey Little Girl Come On Here if you want to figure out how deeply it is. And that was in 1965 when that song came out.
Yeah, man. Everything is, it's crazy.
This is serious. Let's talk deeper about it. I've heard a lot of people say, well, what if it was about love? It was never about love. It was about control. It was early American culture, and really across the history of the world, about adult men often sought extremely young girls, not because it was normal, but because society allowed it, and sometimes even encouraged it.
That's why things are the way they are. Even in the anime industry, with all those young people in the shows, man, it makes sense.
This wasn't romance, it was ownership. Young girls were treated as an extension of property. Marriage wasn't about partnership, it was about alliances, land, inheritance, and male dominance. The younger the bride, the more control the man had over her body, her mind, and her legacy. It's good to get them while they're young, essentially. Consent wasn't a concept, it was a commodity, is how everybody felt. We forgot that age of consent laws are relatively recent. In the 1800s, some U.S. states actively had an age of consent as low as 7 years old. That's what we talked about. It's not me saying something crazy. You can look it up. It wasn't raised to 16 or 18 until activists, especially women, pushed back in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The system didn't care about a child's well-being. It cared about preserving.
It was the women that pushed back? Wow.
Purity before marriage. That's what happened. Not protection from predators. It was about the purity of everything. Religion and the patriarchy gave it a cover. Biblical precedent, and I love the Bible, by the way, just in case any Christians want to come in here and argue with me. I love the Bible. I really do. I love everything that represents. I just don't.
Yeah, it's good for positivity and to keep you at peace. If you follow the rules in the Bible, you'd be a good person.
I like how people use it. Biblical precedent was often weaponized to justify older men marrying young girls. Is it good enough in the Bible? They'd argue, is what a common argument was. It's good enough now. The patriarchy wasn't just social, it was spiritualized obedience, submission, chastity. All these were demanded of women from an impossibly young age. And once a girl could bear children, society often decided that she was no longer a child. Upon that first period hitting, whether you're 10 or 12, well, guess what? You are now a woman. Good on you. This was so prevalent in early culture that it was acidine. It was asinine. It was absolutely psychotic in the way it operated.
You know how people are, man. As soon as that child has the blood flowing down there, they're ready. Messed up, man.
Weird, isn't it? You're probably asking yourself, well, why didn't anybody fight back? People fought back, but they were erased. That's what happened. There were people who saw how
Erased, kind of like how I talked about it in my last video, and somehow after that video I stopped getting decent views. Makes you think, huh?
wrong it all was. Journalists, mothers, early feminists, black and indigenous communities who often said this was insane, all trying to protect children, especially girls. But they were called hysterical, radical, unladylike, and their voices were often buried under the weight of tradition, economy, and the sickening idea that this is just how things are. This is just how things are, don't worry. So no, it was never more acceptable, it was more protected. And the fight to name it, expose it, and stop it has been going on for centuries.
So what's the point? This is just a repeat. People complain like me about it and then nothing happens. Man, the world sucks.
We're only just now unlearning the idea that silence is safer than justice. Think about this for a second. Because of the advent and rise of social media and the Me Too movement and things like that, variety and cancel culture, we've actually been able to actually get more out there. And there are negative effects to Me Too and things of that variety, and negative effects to the aspect of cancel culture. But if they didn't exist, it will probably go out forever. And you may have said to yourself, well, this only happened to young women. What about young boys? Why don't you look at Justin Bieber? He was on stage and he got kissed by an older woman.
Man, kids get messed up all the time, man. Nothing new. Yeah, I even know people who had an abusive family back when they were young, so that's a normal thing, man. Ain't nothing new going on in the world. The same old weirdos still in charge, messing up the kids. Yeah.
Woman. And people just said, oh, that's funny. And he said, whoa, that would make me uncomfortable. Children have not been protected by people that claim to have wanted to protect children. We gotta protect the kids. We can see this so prevalent with Jeffrey Epstein and things of that variety. It is a...
They're still trying to get his videos shown. Shouldn't that tell you something? This is all just a ploy. They're not doing nothing to that guy. It's just another repeat of madness happening over centuries, like he said. What's the point, man, of doing anything these days?
Common part of American culture. It is deeply ingrained into the roots and bones of the structures and the systems. And you're acting surprised why it's happening. Don't be surprised. It's always been this way. We're just seeing it more because we actually have the means to see it. We have immediate access.
Technology helps us see it more. Like I said, everything has been done before. It's just, we're just all talking for talking's sake these days, man. Ain't nothing new. Nothing new.
To information that cannot be manipulated as deeply as it was back then. It can't be edited and curated. It can't be picked out and pushed apart. People can get instant information nowadays. That's why we're seeing it more. That's what's happening. That's the way the world is working right now. Let's talk more about it. Girls back in the day were assets, not people. Hence why we have the term trophy wife. Because women were...
They're still assets to this day. What the heck are you talking about? You really think these women have any say in the matter? Once you get into that corporate world, you're an asset. You're a trophy. Eventually, you'd have to do some strange stuff to get ahead as a woman. So, that shit ain't different now.
were viewed as a prize. Other men would use women as leverage to get the things they wanted. In early America, especially colonial through the 19th century area, girls weren't seen as full individuals. They were seen as property, potential breeders, and domestic laborers. When a man married a 12-year-old, it wasn't seen as creepy, it was seen as pragmatic. That girl could bear children, cook, clean, and be molded. Love was irrelevant. Compatibility was irrelevant. She was a living...
Love is a creation bias. It's all chemical reactions when you're around the opposite sex. Trust me.
Dowry. In Puritan New England, girls as young as 10 to 12 were often promised to older men in arranged or apprenticeship marriage setups. These marriages consolidated wealth, land, and family alliances.
Yeah, like I said before, I knew someone who had, in his rural country, had people coming even to use him as like someone to get a daughter, man. It's creepy out here, man. Creepy.
Not affection. You see this in where you see a big castle and you say, "Oh, I'm being married off. Oh, have my prince come save me." Still being saved by a man. It's still patriarchal centered. The structure was imported from British common law, which technically allowed marriage as young as 7, as we talked about before. And in such cases, the man wasn't 14 or 16. He was 30, 40, or even older. The age gap wasn't incidental. It was desired because it guaranteed control. Now, let's talk about the age of consent. I really want you to hammer in this point because I'm going to keep saying it because people don't really grasp the gravity of why I say it and why I keep saying it. In the 1800s, the average age of consent in most U.S. states was between 10 and 12. In Delaware in specific, it was 7 until 1895 specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep saying it, man, so they can get it through this thick mind that this is all by design. Everywhere you go, pedo, man, can't escape these weirdos.
Around that range. Let me say that again. 7 years old. It was written into law. Consent didn't mean emotional maturity or self-determination.
And you wonder why all these animes and these things have these lolly characters, you know, young small girls who are like 1,000 years old. Jeez, man. Brainwashed a whole generation. 20 years of anime I watched. Thought that shit was normal. Crazy.
And then a man could take you without it being called the R word, as long as he wasn't caught forcing it. This only began to shift during the progressive era. I'll give you an example of a few people, as I stated earlier. There were Christian reformers, God bless them, very early feminists who were beaten within an inch of their life for talking back to their men. There were journalists who were bombed and lit on fire and destroyed and annihilated. This is what happened. There were women in the Women's Christian Temperance Union. They launched moral crusades against what was called, back in the day, white slavery and child exploitation. Now I know what you're going to say if you're a white person saying, this isn't just white people. There were other communities doing this. Yes, there was people in
Yeah, everybody got destroyed. It's not just the white people, we know.
Belgium, there was people in Muslim communities doing this. There were Arabic people doing this as well. It was common in Chinese culture and Japanese culture. You're not wrong. You are not incorrect. And you are not invalid to say
Everywhere.
this. As a matter of fact, even in Africa, among the black community, this is happening. But in America, this was ingrained and deep and sedimented in the culture. It was popularized because America became a super.
It doesn't seem as bad in America as it is everywhere else right now in this current society, though. Let me think. Yeah, I can't really think of anything too bad. At least it's 18 now.
Superpower. This is the important part. America became a superpower. So every other country followed suit what America did. That's why you see progressive movements happening around the world right now, because people follow suit with America. And they weren't perfect. No country is perfect. Some of it was radicalized fear. But it did help raised the age of consent in most places to 16 to 18. And if I made this argument one time and people disagree with me. I said if the age of consent was 7, men would do things. And people said, no, they wouldn't. They already did. They already proved they did. It's history. I'm not stupid. I research. I learn. I look past things.
Okay, I get it, man. This world is finished. Peace.